Okay, so let's recite together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the sublime, the victorious, and the totally self-enlightened one. Okay, welcome everyone. Today we're going to continue with the section on the contemplation of the Dhamma, and we will go to the next category, which is the 5 aggregates of clinging. And if we have enough time, we may also see the 6 internal and external bases too. So let's go straight to the sutta. So this section, it starts with Puna chaparam bhikkhave bhikkhu dhammesu dhammanupasi viharati panchasu upadānakkhandhesu. And again, because a bhikkhu dwells contemplating the Dhamma in the Dhammas in the 5 aggregates of clinging. And how, because does a bhikkhu dwell contemplating the Dhamma in the Dhammas in the 5 aggregates of clinging? So this section, this part about the Dhamma, we're going to talk about the 5 aggregates. And what are actually the 5 aggregates? I think maybe many of you are already familiar with it. But here I want to make a little more introduction about the ultimate realities. So in the teaching of the Buddha, it is explained that there are only 4 things that really exist. All that we have ever known, all that we will ever know, it's only 4 ultimate realities. Only 4 things really exist. And they are called ultimate realities or paramattha in Pali. So that means taking away the concept or the name that we give to anything that really exists will fall into these 4 categories. And what are they? The first one is consciousness, citta. And the second one is cetasika, mental factors. And then we have rupa, matter, and then nibbana, which is the state of freedom from defilements. So only these 4 things, only these 4 things exist in reality. So we know that citta and cetasika, they are actually part of mind, right? The mind. So consciousness always arises together with mental factors. So this is actually mind. And metta is a material thing, material property. So rupa. So let's leave nibbana aside for the moment. So all what exists is actually only mind and metta, right? So citta, cetasika is mind and rupa only. And then nibbana is also something that really exists. So only these 4 things and then nothing else. So everything fit into this 4 category. Actually, these 3, because nibbana is only 1. So when the Buddha explained about the world, the animate world as well as the inanimate world, he explained according to these 4 ultimate realities. But sometimes he divides these 4 ultimate reality into different classifications so people can understand it easier. So for example, he described it sometimes in terms of the 5 aggregates. So Panchakanda, 5 aggregates, which is a further division of mind and matter only, actually. So Vijnana, consciousness, is citta, right? Then all the other cetasikas here are divided into 3. Sanya, perception aggregate. Vedana, feeling aggregate. Sankhara, which is the group of the other 50 cetasikas, is called mental formation aggregate here. And then we have rupa. And sometimes the Buddha explained the world in terms of the 12 ayatanas, which are called the sense bases. Eye-based, visible object-based, nose-based, and then smell. So the door and its object, right? The mind and its object, like that. So 12. Or sometimes he explained according to the 18 elements. So they're called dhadus here. So eye and then visible object and then the eye consciousness, etc. No, so but they are only different divisions. For example, now you will see, let's take the 5 aggregates as an example. Now we have Vijnana, Sanya, Vedana, Sankhara, and Rupa, right? Consciousness, perception, feeling, mental formation, aggregate, and metta. So if we put this into the four ultimate reality, it will group like this. So Vijnana Khandha, the chittas itself, consciousness aggregate, is consciousness, is chitta. And then Sanya, perception aggregate, Vedana, mental feeling aggregate, and all the other cetasikas belong to cetasika. And Rupa is just Rupa. And here, Nibbana is not included in the five aggregates. It's not included in this category because Nibbana cannot be divided into past, present, future, or internal, external, gross, and subtle like that. So we cannot call it an aggregate. So therefore, among the four ultimate reality, in the five aggregates, Nibbana is not included. So only here we have actually just mind and metta. So five aggregates are also only just mind and metta. Then how about the 12 ayatanas, sense bases? If we put them into the four ultimate realities, it will go this way. The mind base will be the chittas, right? All the chittas. And then all the other ones, eye base, nose, ear, body sensitivity, and tongue sensitivity, and the visible objects, smell, tangible objects, sound, and taste, all these are actually just different classifications of some kinds of rupa, some kinds of material property. And then all the other things here, what we have left is the Dhamma base. No, Dhamma base is actually all other things that can be taken as object by the mind, and that is not a base itself. So that means every other thing instead of these ones that are already a base. No, so other things. So what are they? So they are cetasikas, all the other kinds of rupa, and nibbana as well, because mind can also take nibbana as object. So here you see again, everything is included, but just in a different classification. So all the division is only just about mind and matter, and sometimes nibbana included or not, about the ultimate realities. Then how about the 18 elements? In the same way, if we separate them, they are just finer divisions of chitta. Now, in this category, elements, chitta is further divided into eye consciousness, ear consciousness, sota vijnana, gandha vijnana, nose consciousness, jiva vijnana, taste consciousness, kaya vijnana, body consciousness, and then mano dhatu and mano vijnana dhatu. These are two other groups of the other kinds of consciousness. And then again, just like the base, these are different kinds of rupa. And here, again, it's the object of the Dhamma here means like phenomena, or natural phenomena. So things that the mind can take as object includes all the cetasikas, the other kinds of rupa, which are not a separate element here, and nibbana as well. So what I want to say is I just want to make the point that although in the suttas or in the Abhidhamma, you may find that there seems to be many different categories when you read. We have the dhatu, we have the elements, we have the bases, ayatanas, and the aggregates. So it seems like there are a lot of things, but at the end, they all just refer to actually just mind and metta, chitta, cetasika, and rupa. So they are all talking about the same thing, but just in a different way, a different division. So we can even fit the, let's say, the 18 dhatus into the 5 aggregates. They are same thing. So all these different kinds of consciousness, mano dhatu, mano vijnana dhatu, they all fit into chitta. And then all these other elements, they are just rupa. And then for the mind object here, then they are sanya, vedana, all the other cetasikas, and metta, all the other mettas as well. So the Buddha explained in many, many different ways according to the needs and the degree of understanding of his audience. That's why he divided them into different groups, because different people have different tendency. You know, some understand better by way of the 5 aggregates, some understand better by way of the 12 sense bases, and some prefer the elements, and some prefer even further divisions, such as the very subtle and fine, like detailed division in the Abhidhamma, like 89 types of consciousness and 52 types of cetasikas and 28 rupas, etc. No, so but whichever way it is explained, he's always just referring to the ultimate reality of mind and matter. Sometimes nibbana also included, and sometimes not. So in the contemplation of the Dhamma section, the 5 aggregates and the 12 sense spaces are mentioned. So we are going to talk about them today. And about the elements or other categories, if you are interested, if you want to know more, you can take a look at the channel of the Anatomy of the Mind. If you want to know about dhadus, 18 dhadus, which we are not going to talk about in this course, then you can look at video number 48. There we talked about the elements dhatu. And if you want to know the different categories, for example, the 22 faculties, they are also just mind and matter, actually. So how are they divided? What are they? And then you can take a look at video number 45. Okay, so we'll come back to the 5 aggregates now. The whole world is actually composed of these 5 aggregates. It includes all physical and all mental phenomena. So as we all know, that there is mind and there is matter, and mind can further be divided into chitta and cetasika. So we have mind, matter, here is the body, but it also includes inanimate things, any material thing are included as matter. So we have the mind further divided into chitta and cetasika, consciousness and mental factors. And then if we further divide the cetasikas, as we saw right now, then we can divide them into mental feeling and perception and sankhara, which are other cetasikas called mental formation here. So this mental feeling, Vedana, and Sanya, perception, they are singled out here because they play a very important role, and also they are very obvious. We can understand them like mental feeling. It's very obvious. We always have some kind of feeling going on, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So therefore, it is considered one aggregate. The Buddha separated as one aggregate by itself. And then consciousness itself it's one aggregate. So here, if we divide cetasika into 3 groups, and then we have chitta and rupa, so it becomes the 5 aggregates, the pancha khandha. So vijnana khandha, consciousness aggregate. Vijnana and chitta is a synonym term. So consciousness, you can either say vijnana or chitta. They mean the same thing, or namas, they mean the same thing. So according to the Abhidhamma consciousness, there are 89 or 121 kinds. So all this consciousness, all these different kinds of consciousness are included in this group. Then we have Vedana Khandha, feeling aggregates. Now, with regard to the aggregate of feeling, there can be only one feeling, only one Vedana cetasika. Although there is pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, they can be of different feeling, but there is only one cetasika that is called Vedana, which is in charge of experiencing the object. So that is only one cetasika there. But we call it a group here, the aggregate of feeling, because a feeling can be divided into the past, present, and future, and so on. And it is the same for sanya. Sanya khandha, perception aggregate, although it is only one cetasika perception, but because there is this kind of division of past, present, future, subtle and gross, and etc., so it can be called an aggregate here. And then we have sankhara khandha, which is the remaining 50 cetasikas. So later we will talk a little bit more about them. So altogether, there are 52 cetasikas, so mind and matter, here divided into these 3 groups, the mental factors divided into these 3 groups. And rupa, there are 28 types of rupa, all included in the matter aggregate, rupa khandha here. So khandha, this word actually means a group. So the group of the consciousness, feeling, perception, mental formation, and matter aggregate. But they are all actually just mind and matter, right? Mind and matter. Okay, so now we know about the 5 aggregates. Then what about 5 aggregates of clinging? When the Buddha described the world, in terms of the 5 aggregates, he spoke about the 5 aggregates of clinging. So the word here used is Upādānakkhandha. So not just only the khandha itself, but Upādāna. So let's take a look at this Pali word to understand more what does that mean. Now here we have to understand two words: aggregates, khandhas, and upadana, right? Upadana, clinging. So upadana, it is actually composed of two parts. Upa, this prefix means firmly or strongly. Adana means taking. So upadana, literally, it means firmly or strongly taking. Taking what? Taking the object, right? So strong attachment or strongly taking the object is called clinging, upadana. In English, sometimes it is translated as clinging, sometimes it is translated as grasping. And then we have the other part of the word khandha, which is aggregate. So Upādānakkhandha means aggregate of clinging. So it means aggregates, those 5 aggregates, among those aggregates that are the object of clinging. So anything that we can cling to are called the aggregates of clinging, Upādānakkhandha. Now, upadana, clinging or grasping, is in ultimate reality, it is still the cetasika lobha, but being developed into a very high degree. So when lobha reaches the stage of upadana, one cannot give up. So this very firm and strong attachment or strongly taking the object is called upadana, clinging or grasping. But of course, it has to be understood as a figure of speech because there is no physical grasping. It's not meant here. What is meant is the mental grasping or mental clinging attachment to the different kinds of objects. Now, upadana is compared to a snake swallowing a mouse. Once it has taken the mouse in its mouth, it will not let go again. So grasping and clinging is like that. When lobha reaches the stage of upadana, it will never let go of its object. So it's like this very strong holding on to. That is called clinging or grasping. Now, according to the Abhidhamma, it is mentioned that there are 4 kinds of upadana, 4 kinds of clinging. So clinging to what? No, we're clinging of what? The first one is called kamupādāna. That is clinging to sensual desire or sensual pleasure. So when we develop very strong lobha towards sensual pleasure, then that lobha becomes upadana. It gets so strong to the point that where it becomes clinging or grasping. And the second one is called ditthupādāna, clinging to wrong view. To see things in the wrong way, taking things that are not permanent as permanent, taking things that are unsatisfactory as satisfactory, and taking things that are non-self as self also. This is included in the clinging of wrong view, clinging to wrong view. And then we have another one, which is called clinging to wrong practice. Now, what does that mean by wrong practice? Wrong practice refers to taking something, some kind of practice to be, which is not the right practice, to be something that can, believing that this kind of practice can liberate us or bring us out of suffering. In the times of the Buddha, there are many different kinds of spiritual practice in India, even nowadays. Some of the people at that time, they believed in karma. So they think that I have accumulated a lot of bad karma previously. So I have to, let's say, do some kind of purification in this lifetime in order to use up my bad karma. So with this practice, I can get liberated. So some people think this way. And then they think that if I behave like a dog, if I eat like a dog, walk like a dog, or live like a dog, and then I will purify my karma, and then I will become liberated through this practice. And then some other people believe that if I behave like a cow, sleep like a cow, eat like a cow, walk like a cow, then I might get liberation. So this kind of practice, in the time of the Buddha, it really existed, and people do practice this way. So they believe that this can bring them true liberation. So that kind of attachment towards this kind of wrong practice is called the clinging to wrong practice here, Silabbata Upadana. Sometimes in English, this word Silabbata Upadana is translated as clinging to rites and rituals. Sometimes if you see other English books, and it is written in that way, but it is a little bit more than that. Okay, so that is another kind of upadana. Then we have the last one is clinging to the opinion of an atta. So attavadu padana. That means the clinging, strongly attached to the idea of a self, Okay, so there are these 4 types of upadana, but in ultimate reality, there are actually only 2 kinds of cetasikas involved here. So the first one is lobha, obviously craving and clinging, and then lobha together with ditthi as well. Ditthi means wrong view, right? So among these 4 types, let's see which one is which one. Now, clinging to sensual desire, do you think it's lobha cetasika or it's lobha cetasika together with ditthi wrong view? Which one do you think it is? Yes.
Lobha.
Get it right, lobha, right? So clinging to sensual desire, it's directly lobha, yeah? How about clinging to wrong view? Very obvious, no? So it is lobha together with
and ditthi.
wrong view. Yes. Now, how about clinging to wrong practice?
Same. Lobha and ditthi.
Right. So that's lobha and ditthi as well, because that's a wrong understanding or wrong view about the practice, right? And also clinging to the opinion of atta is also lobha together with ditthi. Thank you, Edith. Right? So here, that means now we understand that clinging and grasping involve 2 different cetasikas, which are both in the lobha group. So that's lobha and ditthi as well. So we can cling to something by way of craving and desire, or we can cling to something also by way of wrong view, right? Believing that something is this way and that way, but which is not correct. Okay, so now we understand upadana, ultimate reality is craving and wrong view. And khandha, the aggregates, are the aggregates, right? So mind and matter in short, chitta, sanya, vedana, other mental formations, sankhara, and rupa. So upadana and khandha, aggregates of clinging, means the aggregates that are the object of lobha and ditthi. Okay, so anything, whatever object that can be taken as object by lobha and ditthi, craving and wrong view, are called the aggregates of clinging. Yes, Edith?
I was just going to ask why mana isn't included.
Why is it not a kind of upadana? You mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Because mana never arise together with wrong view. Because their object is different. Yeah, wrong view is an attachment towards an idea. Yeah, so the object of wrong view is an idea. So let's say the idea of thinking about a self or thinking about a theory or something. Okay, so that's the object of ditthi.
Yes.
And mana, it associates with lobha also, but the object is the comparison of like me and other person, right? So yeah, so that's that object is different. So when mana arises, ditthi do not arise. But when ditthi arise, mana do not arise. They do not associate with each other.
Right. So it's the comparison. I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, so here let's come back to the objects now. So we are talking about among the 5 aggregates, which is actually mind and matter. What do you think can be object of lobha and ditthi? Or what cannot be, let's say? Basically, everything, right?
Everything.
Everything, yeah. So lobha can take everything as object now and get attached to it. And wrong view also can have wrong view about everything now, basically. So how about, let's say, generosity or loving kindness or wisdom? Is it possible? Yes. Everyone agree on no? Someone say no. Agree or not? I don't know. Doubtful? Maybe, maybe not. All right. Okay, let's see. Now, these wholesome qualities, loving kindness or generosity and even wisdom, they themselves are not lobha. They are not craving. They are not unwholesome. They are not akusala, but lobha can still take them as object. How? For example, thinking that I'm better than others because I'm generous, or because I'm kind, or because I study the Dhamma, I'm better than others. No? So it is possible that lobha can also take the good qualities and have attachment towards them, right? And also, we can develop conceit, mana, and also attach maybe to the good feeling of being kind, or lobha can even attach to jhana state. Right? So lobha basically can take hold of any kind of mundane state, mundane consciousness. So the object of lobha and ditthi is everything that is mundane, everything that is lokiya in Pali. The only thing that is out of reach for lobha and ditthi is actually magga and phala chittas and nibbana. So the enlightenment consciousness, the four kinds of path consciousness at the different stage of enlightenment, and the fruition consciousness. Only these 8 consciousness are not subject to clinging. Just because they are super mundane, they are out of reach of defilements. They are actually the consciousness that eradicate defilements, right? And nibbana as well. So that means among the 5 aggregates here, in order to understand the Upādānakkhandha, the 5 aggregates of clinging, we have to take out something. Now, from the consciousness aggregate, Vijnana-khandha, from the 89 types, we have to take out the 8 types of enlightenment consciousness, right? So from 89, then it becomes 81. So those supramundane consciousness are not included. And then among the cetasikas, those cetasika that associate with the mundane, with the supermundane, with the enlightenment consciousness, we should also take out. So here we only include all those cetasika that associate with these 81 types of lokiya chittas, which are mundane consciousness. And then concerning rupa, that there is no changes here basically, because all kinds of rupa are basically possible object for lobha and ditthi. Yeah. Okay. So in this case, the 5 aggregates of clinging are everything that is possible to become object of lobha and ditthi, craving and wrong view. So that's the difference between 5 aggregates and the 5 aggregates of clinging. Okay. Now, the Buddha explained about the Upādānakkhandha for the sake of vipassana meditation. Because in vipassana, we take all mind and matter as object, but we do not take lokuttara chittas or nibbana as object. That means those path consciousness and fruition consciousness, those consciousness of enlightenment, and nibbana cannot be taken as vipassana object, simply because we have not attained them, no? So, therefore, for vipassana purpose, the Buddha talked about the 5 aggregates of clinging. Now, if we take these 5 aggregates of clinging as object and keep the mind on it, then we are practicing vipassana. But if we keep the mind only on the concept, like the kasinas, the earth disk kasina, or the kala kasina, or anapana, but in the breathe in and breathe out concept, in those cases, then those are samatha meditation. So for vipassana, the object must be Upādānakkhandha, 5 aggregates of clinging. So in other words, something which can be attached to or which can be taken by wrong view also. Okay, so now in terms of our daily experience, let's use some examples so we can easily understand it in a closer way, these 5 aggregates and what they mean in our lives, right? Now let's take rupa first. Rupa, now we talk about rupa, metta aggregate. What is actually rupa here? What is it? So this physical body, this material thing, it's metta itself. This is part of metta aggregate. And the whole outside world also, mountain, trees, lakes, roads, and then outside things, houses, cars, furnitures, and plants, and everything. All of these are part of metta aggregate. So we are obviously in touch with it every day, all the time, this physical body. Well, not the mind, but this physical body. and everything else that we see and touch and smell and taste. Okay, then how about Vedana? What is Vedana aggregate? Now, when our senses, the six senses, when we get in touch with an object, we experience some kind of feeling. So feeling, it's here all the time. It happens every time we get in touch with an object. It may be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. We experience it all the time. So we have discussed a lot about the mental feeling in the contemplation of feelings, or in the Vedananupassana. So I think you're quite familiar with it already. So you know that this feeling that arises whenever we get in touch with any kind of object through the six senses. Okay, so how about sanya, perception? Now, perception has the characteristic of perceiving things. Its function is to make a mental mark or sign as a condition of perceiving again or perceiving later that this thing, oh, this is the same thing, this is it, this is how I've seen this before, right? So making a mental mark or a sign in order to remember or to recognize the next time we come across something is called perception or sanya. The example given in the text that is compared to a carpenter drawing marks or signs on timber. So carpenters, they draw marks or signs on the wood, and so later on they may know which part are to be used and which part are to be put away and or to be cut off or whatever. No, so they're making marks. So sanya is like that. Sanya can sometimes be wrong or it can be right. Now, when we first see this image, if we see something like this on the road, we might get scared than the first time we saw it, no? Because perception might think that it is a snake, no? Did you immediately saw that it is a rope? Yes? No? Right? It does look like a snake, right? Somehow, yeah. So sometimes it can be right, sometimes it can be wrong. So it's not totally trustworthy. So don't trust your perception immediately all the time. When we have wrong sanya, when perception is wrong, we get a wrong notion. Because once sanya has made a mark that something is this or that, then it will interpret that object by way of that mark, like how it looks and like that. So for example, what do you see? Very obviously, we all see a cloud, right? How many of you thought about a heart shape? Raise your hand. Right, almost everyone, no? Yeah, so sanya, we interpret according to the mark that we have seen before in the mind, right? Obviously, we know that this is cloud, but we also see the heart shape there because that's the working of sanya. That's the working of sanya, of perception. So when we see something with that shape, then perception will interpret things in that way also. So that's how perception is working in our daily life. So whenever you know that you know something, that's perception working. Okay, so then we have the other 50 cetasikas, which belong to the group called Sankhara, no? Mental formation aggregate. Now, this mental formation aggregate, it is headed by Cetana, this cetasika, which is called volition Cetana. In fact, the word Sankhara itself is a name of volition, of Cetana, of volition. In the dependent origination, you will see this word Sankhara, and it means karma, which is actually Cetana, volition, right? So this group of cetasika has volition as its head. Now, but when we say sankhara, we don't only mean cetana. We mean cetana and also the other 49 types of mental factors. Now, why is it that we just say sankhara or cetana here? That's because it is a little bit like when we say that the king is coming, we never mean that the king is coming alone. The king never come alone. No, he always come with the minister, with the soldiers, and with many people. No, the whole group of people follow. Come together. So in the same way, when we mention cetana, we understand it's not only cetana alone, but also many other mental factors also are included in this group. Okay, so when we see sankhara here, mental formation aggregate, we know it is sankhara and also other mental factors here. So what are included here? So for example, craving, aversion, delusion, non-greed, non-hatred, wisdom, all these are also included in the sankhara group. So those are the other mental factors which give taste to our experience. No? So whenever in our daily life we experience these qualities, anger or greed or loving kindness, compassion, and all kinds of these different mental factors, then we know they belong to the sankhara group, the mental formation group. Then how about consciousness aggregate, chitta? So we know that consciousness they always arise together with its associated cetasikas, right? So here we know that consciousness is divided into two parts. So if we divide the consciousness aggregate into chitta and cetasika, because there are other cetasikas here, so obviously we are not talking about chitta and cetasika together as a group here, although they arise together, but we are kind of looking at it separately. So here we are only talking about chitta, about consciousness, right? So consciousness is just the bare cognition of an object. And it is not the perception of its shape, its color, etc., because that's the job of sanya. No, sanya is another aggregate, and it is also not determining whether this object is something good or something we like or not, because that's the work of the other mental factors which are included in the sankhara khandha. So here, consciousness is only the bare cognition of an object, only the taking of an object. And also, it is not the same as what we call awareness. No, previously, Judy, maybe there was a little bit of confusion there. So sati or awareness or mindfulness is actually a beautiful cetasika which belong to the sankhara group, actually. So here, the bare cognition is the function of consciousness, but it is different from sati because awareness and mindfulness only arise together with a beautiful consciousness. Anyway, so here when we talk about consciousness, we are only talking about all kinds of consciousness with the function of cognizing or taking an object. It can be unwholesome consciousness, also any kind of consciousness, or resultant consciousness also. In our own experience and feeling, we will never be able to feel only consciousness. We can understand what it does. It takes an object, but because consciousness and other mental factors, they always arise together. So in our experience, we will always know both. Yeah. So when there is a consciousness that arises, we will also know perception. We will also know mental feeling. We will also know whether we like it or don't like it, or whether we have wisdom arising, understanding this object or not. So those are other kinds of mental factors. Because they arise together, we will always know all of them. But we can understand mentally, we can understand the different functions of them, right? So without consciousness, we will be like a doll or like a piece of lock. So consciousness is important here. So that's one of the aggregate. Okay, so this is actually our experience every day. This is our life. This is what we call us. What we call us. So we can know things. When we can know things, there is consciousness. Perception is working. We give names to things that we are seeing, and we interpret our experience. No? Then there are mental feeling will arise, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Then we want to do this, we want to do that. Then there is volition. No? We want something, and sometimes we are kind, sometimes there are beautiful qualities, sometimes we get angry, we have craving. So those are other kinds of mental formation aggregates also. And this body that we so much identify to be me, to be this one, and every other material thing that we can see, can smell, can taste, can hear, can touch, they are all matter aggregates. So everything that we know, everything that we have ever experienced, is all these 5 aggregates of clinging. It belongs to this group, to this group of the 5 aggregates of clinging. So this is what is meant by the 5 aggregates of clinging by the Buddha. Now that we are clear about the 5 aggregates of clinging, we'll go back to the sutta. And before we do that, all good? Oh, yes, Judy, you have a question? Yes.
Hi, Hedy. Can you explain again, right? Why Chetana is how do I say, like pull out of the 50 mental factors? It's like
Because
standalone.
it is important. It is actually not pull out, but it is like the head of this group.
Because my understanding of Chetana, which is volition, is intention. So it is the most important. That's why it is like leading all the remaining 49.
No. So what I mean is, Chetana it is another name of Sankara, no? So this group is called Sankara, no? The Sankara aggregate is called, yeah? So Chetana is another name of Sankara. So I'm saying, why is this group called Sankara? That's because it's named after Chetana, because Chetana is one of the most important mental factors among these 50. So let's say, for example, let's say at school, in the school, no? So there is different group of students, right? So let's say the first group of student, the head of this group is, let's say, is Judy, right? So I'll say Judy's group come, right? So the whole group of Judy will come, yeah, not only Judy alone. Yeah, so I'm calling Judy, but I'm not meaning only Judy. I'm Judy's group, right? So everyone should come. Yeah, so Chetana is like that in that way. So I'm calling this Chetana group. So, but there it includes all 50 mental factors there. Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, any other question? All good? Okay, so in that case, we'll continue. Let's go to the sutta then, now that we have understood what means by 5 aggregate of clinging. Okay, so it says, Ida bhikkhave bhikkhu iti rupam, iti rupasa samudayo, iti rupasa atangamo. Here, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu knows this is material form. This is the arising or cause of material form. This is the passing away or cause of passing away of material form. So in this way, the meditators, they will recognize the aggregate of matter or material form, when they practice, when they observe. So first they have to know that, let's say when they observe the rupa aggregate, the matter aggregate, so they will have to know that this is rupa, what I'm observing, and not mind. Mind and matter, they are different, right? So they also know the cause of the arising of this rupa and the cause of the passing away of this material form. So for example, when we breathed, we know this body which support the breath is rupa, right? It's material property. And then the breath itself is wind element. It is also rupa. Or when we hear something, we know that ear sensitivity, it's rupa, and sound is also rupa, right? Or when we see something, we know eye sensitivity is rupa, and what we are looking at, this flower, let's say, it's also the visible object is also rupa. So in this way, meditators learned what material form or matter aggregate, what it is. It is different from the mind. Matter is has its characteristic, it has its function, its manifestation, and mind is like this, matter is like this. No. So first, meditator, when they observe metta, they understand that this is metta, this is rupa. And so they observe rupa as rupa only, and not as I, me, or mine. So they don't take rupa with wrong view, not taking this rupa to be me, but observing that this is rupa and rupa only, rupa as rupa. So this is what is meant by iti rupam. That means that the meditators, they understand material form or matter, it's only matter, not I, me, or mine. Then the arising of rupa. That means meditators observe and recognize the arising or the coming up of rupa, such as, for example, in the rising of the breath, breathe in and breathe out comes and goes, right? So when there is in-breath, there can be no out-breath. And when there is out-breath, there can be no in-breath. And then the in-breath comes after the out-breath, and then the out-breath comes after the in-breath. So meditators recognize the arising of this matter and then the passing of it as well, which is the air element here, in the breath. So if they're observing the breath, if they're observing something else, then it could be in another way, right? So we take this as an example. Now, they may also realize that in order to produce breath, as we saw in the Anapana section, the section of the breathing in and breathing out, in order to produce breath, we must have a physical body, right? And also, the nasal aperture is also important, it's necessary. Then we must also have a mind, because breath is mind-produced material property, mind-produced wind element. So depending on these three things, each breath is produced in the body. Without them, there can be no breath. So therefore, in the commentary, these three things is called the cause or the origination factors of breath. So when the meditators keep observing, when they understand or when they observe the rupa, let's say the breath in this case, then they may also come to see the reason of its arising, or the causes or the origination factors of this breath. And sometimes they will also, if they have knowledge of Dhamma, they may also notice the cause, deeper causes, that this rupa, which is the breath, belong to the body. And then I have this body now because I was ignorant and had craving in the past, and I may have accumulated some kind of good karma in the past. That's why I have this body and this material form right now as a human being, and this material form, this rupa, this body, which is already here, is now supported by nutriments as well. So in this way, also meditators may find out the cause or the reason for the arising of this metta, of any kind of metta. Then in the same way, when meditators observe closely, they will recognize that it arises and then it passes away. It does not stay there forever. The in-breath disappears, and then the out-breath arises. And then the out-breath disappeared, and then the in-breath will arise. So meditators recognize the disappearance of matter or form also, and also the cost of the fading away of material form or the matter aggregate. So they may also understand that if we would not have been ignorant or we didn't have craving in the past, we will not have accumulated any karma. Without any karma, we will not have been born into this life, and we will not have this material property here. So in this way, if the meditators contemplate in this way, that is that they understand that this is the passing away or cause of passing away of material property or material form. So that is the meaning of this three phrased here. Then in the same way, the sutta continues for the other four aggregates. So iti vedanaya samudayo, iti vedanaya atangamo. This is feeling, this is the arising or cause of feeling, this is the passing away or cause of passing away of feeling. So the feeling aggregate as well in the same way, perception aggregate also in the same way, mental formation aggregate also in the same way, consciousness also in the same way. So with regard to feeling, the meditators, they know that it is just feeling and not I, me, or mine. Not that I am feeling this or I am feeling that, but they know this is just feeling and nothing else. Feeling is only feeling. It is one of the five aggregates. If we contemplate in that way, then we are said to be contemplating on the Dhammas, right? So if we focused on the pleasant or unpleasantness of it, then it can be considered as Vedananupassana, the contemplation of mental feeling. But if we understand that all feeling, this is feeling, it is part of the five aggregates, then we are contemplating on the Dhamma. So meditators will understand, will also notice the arising and passing away of any kind of mental feeling, vedana, that it is always changing. And then they may also know the cause of the arising of mental feeling. Because there was ignorance and craving in the past, I've accumulated karma in the past. That's why I'm born as a human being with the six senses. Because there are the six senses, it gets in touch with objects, therefore mental feeling arises. If there were no contact, then there was no six senses, no birth, no karma, no ignorance, and no craving. There will also be the ceasing of Vedana. So in this way, meditators also understand by way of dependent origination the arising of feeling aggregate and the disappearing, or I mean the passing away or the reverse order of the dependent origination. So in the same way, the meditators also can be aware of perception. Now, perception is not as evident as rupa or as Vedana, but sometimes if meditators have knowledge of the Abhidhamma or of the five aggregates, they will also notice that there's a perception happening. You know, as we have just seen that whenever we notice something, we name it or we make a mark of it. So that is the work of perception. So we can also know the perception assign a meaning or a name to the experience that we come across through all the senses, right? Perception occurs during our entire life. So meditators also can see it during their observation and can also come to understand that in the same way as the dependent origination, because there was ignorance and craving in the past, we have accumulated karma and we are born here. And because of contact also with the object, then there is a perception. So if all those elements or factors were gone, ceased, then this perception will also cease. So in this way, meditators understand the arising and passing of perception aggregate also. So whenever we observe any kind of other mental factors, which is included in the Sankhara group, actually it is the same way. So meditators also understand that since there is object, there are mental formations. Now, since we have been ignorant in the past, again, in the same way, we have craving in the past, we accumulate karma in the past, therefore we experience now this mental formation. Now, with respect to the disappearance of mental formations, meditators also, for example, are aware of anger and keep observing it. So during our meditation, when we know anger, if we observe it, sometimes it will go and sometimes it will disappear. So that is also one way of knowing its disappearance. And also it is the same for other mental formation as well. And if we also have knowledge of the dependent origination, then we may also come to observe or contemplate on how if all these factors, ignorance, craving, were not there, then there will be no karma accumulated, no karma, then there will be no new bhava, no new becoming. No new becoming, then there won't be the senses that without the senses, we will not come into contact with the objects and no other mental formations will arise. So in the same way, with the disappearing or ceasing of all these factors, all mental formations will also cease. Then with regard to consciousness, meditators recognize that consciousness is only consciousness, not me, not I, not mine. Now, if they recognize that, for example, consciousness with lust, consciousness without lust, and so on, then that will be contemplation of consciousness, Cittanupassana, right? But if we see it as just consciousness, arising one after another all the time without a break, and we just seeing consciousness as consciousness, part of the five aggregates, then we are said to be contemplating on the Dhamma in this section. So we also know that the arising of consciousness, there are different kinds of consciousness. When we see something, that there is seeing consciousness. When we hear something, there is ear consciousness. Then we see also the arising and the disappearing of these different types of consciousness as well. And meditators might also come to the understanding of the dependent origination again. When there is no more ignorance and craving, then no more new consciousness will arise. Because there will not be any rebirth anymore, right? So no more new vijnana or nama and rupa. Okay, so this is how meditators contemplate on the five aggregates and the causes and of their rising and ceasing. Now, the Buddha does not mean for meditators to deliberately dwell on the five aggregates or to try to find or search for them. But if the meditators come to notice them and become aware of them during meditation, then we should look at them, but not trying to search for them. So we take note of whatever that is arising in the present moment. The object of our recognition may be metta, which is part of the rupa aggregate. Sometimes it may be mental feelings. Sometimes it may be sankhara, different kinds of mental formation. Sometimes it can be consciousness. So meditators can switch between the different objects, the different aggregates, as well as the different foundations as well. Like, let's say I am aware of mental feeling. So it actually, in the practice, it doesn't matter whether it is categorized as the contemplation of the Dhamma or the contemplation of mental feeling. Whichever way we are observing, it's right. There is no wrong observation, and it's not necessary to categorize them in that way. Now we are doing this because we are trying to study and trying to understand them. So therefore, we are explaining in this way. But during practice, it doesn't matter if it is observing feeling as the Vedananupassana or Dhammanupassana. As long as we are observing ultimate reality, mind and matter, we are doing vipassana, and that is good enough. Okay? All right, so the sutta then continues, just like all the other sections. It says that the meditator dwells contemplating the Dhamma in the Dhamma internally, or he dwells contemplating the Dhamma in the Dhammas externally, or he dwells contemplating the Dhamma in the Dhammas both internally and externally. That means the meditators, they observed mind and matter, as we have seen in all the other previous sections. That in the same way, they understand that this is mind, this is matter, and they are just mind, and mind is mind, matter is matter, not I, me, or mine. They arise because of their own causes and conditions. And then the meditators understand that there is actually no self there. There's only mind and matter working together. So in this way, if it is like this here internally, then it is also the same for other people. So externally, there is also no man, no woman, no individual, but only mind and matter, or the five aggregates working together. So if the meditators contemplate back and forth, like here also, with other people also, it is in the same way, then it is called contemplating internally and externally. Okay, then the meditators will continue to observe and contemplate on the origination factors of mind and matter in the Dhammas here, because we are talking about the five aggregates and in terms of Dhammas here, like natural phenomena. So we understand the origination factors of mind and origination factors of matter, and also the dissolution factor, as we have seen here, the contemplation of the dependent origination, right, in the normal order and the reverse order. So when the meditators continue to practice, they will come to see the universal characteristic of mind and matter, which is anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Then they will recognize that there is nothing to grasp and be attached to. You see here, not dependent on or attached to anything by way of craving and wrong view, right? So no more clinging, no by way of craving and wrong view. And so they will reach higher and higher stages of the vipassana wisdom until they attain arahantship. So this is the way how meditators contemplate the Dhammas in the Dhamma in the five aggregates of clinging. So until here, we have come to the end of the section of the five aggregates of clinging. All good here? Yes? Okay. All right, so in this case, let's take 5 minutes break, and coming back, we will see if we continue with the ayatanas. Welcome back, everyone. Okay. So up to here, everyone okay with the 5 aggregates of clinging? Yes? Yeah. Okay. So for the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, actually, we have already seen how to practice in the beginning of beginning section, beginning parts of the sutta. So that's why we're not repeating everything here. So it is more like the introduction of what is this category, what are the 5 aggregates of clinging. But then whatever we start with, whether we are observing the 5 aggregates, whether we are observing the 5 hindrances, then we still at the end, we always come back to observing mind and metta, and understanding their individual characteristic and their function, their manifestation. And then later on, we move to understanding their causes. And then we go to observe the universal characteristic, anicca, dukkha, and anatta. And by that, we are really starting vipassana, seeing the universal characteristic of all kinds of mind and all kinds of metta. And then in that way, meditators progressed in the different stages of purification and the different stages of vipassana wisdom. So all this we have already seen in the previous section, so we did not repeat here again. Okay, so we're going to look at the internal and external basis. So in this section, it starts basically in the same way. And again, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu dwells contemplating the Dhamma in the Dhammas, now this time in the 6 internal and the 6 external bases. So let's go and look at what is meant by the 6 internal and external bases. So we have seen this a little bit in the very beginning, in the introduction of the 4 ultimate realities. So Āyatana here, this word is translated as base here, base. It can mean like base, a house or a place. So, but of what? It's a base or like the house of consciousness, because consciousness depends on this basis to arise. Without them, consciousness cannot arise. Therefore, they are called a base or a house or place, Āyatana, where consciousness arises. So there are altogether 12 bases, 12 Āyatanas, 6 internal and 6 external. Now, for example, for I consciousness to arise, what is necessary? What is I consciousness based on, in other words? Very obviously, we need a physical eye. Without an eye, then we cannot see anything, no? So this physical eye here, we actually do not mean the whole eye, this whole eye, but there is a kind of rupa, kind of material property, which is called chakku pasada, the pasada rupa, which is called eye sensitivity, that is located, according to anatomy, it is located around the retina area. So it's not the whole eyeball, but those kind of sensitivity which are located around the retina area are called the eye sensitivity. So this is one condition for eye consciousness to arise. Without eye sensitivity, it is not possible. And then we also need something to see, right? So the visible object, the visible quality of metta, of the material thing, in Pali is called rupa, or sometimes it's also called vana, means like color. Or the visible quality of the object is called visible object, right? So without anything to see, also eye consciousness cannot arise. So depending on the eye sensitivity and something to see, the visible object, depending on these 2 kind of material property, chakku vijnana, which is eye consciousness, arise, right? So therefore, this eye sensitivity and the visible object is called a base here. So eye base, chakayatana, and rupayatana, the visible object based. Because based on these 2 things, eye consciousness arise. Now, in the same way, we can understand for ear consciousness. For ear consciousness to arise, we need ear sensitivity. Again, it's not the whole ear, but it is some kind of sensitive matter that is located inside the ear. And then we need sound. We need the audioable object. So with contact of ear sensitivity and sound, sota vijnana, ear consciousness arises. Therefore, here they are called base. So ear base and sound base. And in the same way, we can understand for the nose, for nose consciousness to arise, we need nose sensitivity, which is located inside the nose somewhere. And then we need smell, which is also a metta, also a rupa. No? So with the contact of these two, gana, vijnana, the nose consciousness arise. So therefore, here, nose sensitivity, pasada rupa, this ganda pasada is called, gana pasada is called nose base, and ganda yatana is called the smell base. And it is the same for tongue consciousness to arise. We need tongue sensitivity, and also we need taste, the taste of any kind of object, or any kind of material thing that we can taste it. So with these two, tongue consciousness will arise. So therefore, they are called base here, tongue base and taste base. The same way for body consciousness to arise, we need body sensitivity, which is located basically everywhere in our body except for nails and hair. So that those are the only two things that it doesn't hurt when we cut hair and nails. So besides these two, body sensitivity is located everywhere in the body, and we need tangible object. So with these two, body consciousness can arise. Now, tangible object for Āyatana is actually the combination of three primary elements: earth element, fire element, and wind element. So that's what we call tangible object. So here they are called base. So body base and tangible object base. So now here we have already saw this pair, eye with the visible object, ear and sound, nose base, smell base, tongue base, taste base, body base, and tangible object base. So you see, we can actually understand it to be the door and the object of the different senses. So both the door and the object here are called a base here. So these are internal, that is in the body, and these are external. So we have 5 pairs here. So one pair is missing. Now what is missing? The mind, right? The mind and its object. So this 5 is easy to understand. So let's take a look of mind. Now, in Pali, this is called Manayatana and Dhammayatana. So mind-based, the mind, all kinds of chitta, and Dhamma base, which is the object that can be taken by consciousness, that can be taken by the mind. Now, this Manayatana refers to all kinds of consciousness. Then how about Dhamma base? What are the object of the mind? Now, as we know, the mind can actually take everything as object, right? So among the 4 ultimate realities, everything can be taken by the mind. But here in this classification of Dhamma objects, Dhamma here means phenomena. No, it does not refer to the Buddha's teaching Dhamma in that way. It refers to natural phenomena, mental phenomena, or physical phenomena. So Dhamma means that here. So Dhamma object, it can be any of these. But in this classification, we have to exclude those that are already abased, because we do not repeat them again, right? So for Dhamma object base here, Dhammayatana, we have to exclude all the other things. Although mind can take all this as object as well, but we have to exclude it here because they themselves are already a base. So we do not include them in the Dhamma object base here. So if we take this away, then let's do like a calculation. We take the 4 ultimate realities, and then we minus all the other that are already the bases, and those all that is left will be the Dhamma object, not Dhamma base object. So among the 28 rupa, 28 kind of rupa, eye itself is already a base, so we should take that out. Ear, nose, tongue, body, It's already there, so we should take it out. And then visible object, sound, and all the object of those 5 senses, we need to take it out also. Then what about tangible object, as we have already just mentioned right now? They are a combination of the 3 primary elements, no? So we take that out too. So in that case, among the 28 rupas, we have got 16 kind of subtle matter left here, sukuma rupa. So therefore, this 16 sukuma rupa will be included in the Dhamma object base. Okay, so after rupa, let's take a look at the mind, chitta and cetasika. So as we see here, mind, all kinds of chitta, it's already the mind base, no? So we should also take away chitta here. So it's repeated. So in that case, for the mind, we have the 52 cetasikas left. And then what else in the ultimate reality? Nibbana, right? So therefore, Dhamma, what we call Dhamma base, Āyatana here, that means the object of mind here, then we should include 52 cetasikas, Nibbana, and 16 subtle metta. It's what we call Dhamma, is what is included in the Dhamma base here. All right, so mind base, we take all chittas, and Dhamma base, we take these 16 sukuma rupa, 52 cetasikas, and Nibbana as Dhamma base. So with the 12 bases here, we include basically all the 4 ultimate realities already here, no? So here we have the 12 Āyatana, the 12 bases, 6 internal and 6 external, right? So now that we know what are meant by the 6 internal external bases, let's go to the sutta. Ida bhikkhave bhikkhu chakuncha pajanati, rupecha pajanati. Herein, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu knows the eye, knows the visible forms. And then here, important. And also, he knows the fetter that arises dependent on both, samyojana. Yancha tadubayam paticca upajati samyojana tancha pajanati samyojana, the fetters. So here the meditators, they do not only know the eye and the visible object, but they know also the fetters that arise dependent on both. What does that mean? That means, for example, when there is a desirable object and we see it, craving or attachment can arise because of that, yeah? So craving is a fetter, is a samyojana. We will look at that later. Or in another way, for example, if the object is undesirable, then maybe anger or resentment or aversion or anything can arise also. Another kind of defilement can arise. So depending on the eye and depending on the visible object, sense desire can arise, anger can arise, and so on. So meditators know that if the defilement arises, he or she understand that the defilement arise depend on the eye and the visible object. Or when we hear something, or depending on the ear and the sound, or the same for the other senses. So that is what is meant by the fetter. So the meditators, they know the eye and its object, the internal sense and the external sense base, and also any defilements that arise because or dependent on them. Now, samyojana, fetter, what is that? Now, there are altogether 10 kinds of fetters described. They are called fetters, or sometimes also translated as a rope, because they bind us to the round of rebirth. They bind us to samsara. That's why they are called samyojana. And what binds us to samsara? According to the Abhidhamma, there are 10 kinds of defilements that bind us to samsara. And the first one is called sense desire. Sense desire is one of the fetter that bound us here. Another one is craving for a better existence. Say a craving for a Deva life or a Brahman life, so attachment to a better existence. Hatred, conceit, wrong view, jealousy, stinginess, attachment to wrong practice, doubt, and delusion. So these 10 are called fetters, samyojana. You will see this word appears quite a lot in many kinds of, in many different suttas. So you may have heard about this word, samyojana. So when you hear this word, it refers to these 10 things here. Okay, so in Pali, just to introduce you the words, it is called kamaraga, bhavaraga, patiga, mana, ditti, isa, machariya, silabata paramasa, vichikicha, and avijja. So these 10 are called samyojana. Now, in this section of the internal and external basis, when we recognize that, let's say, through seeing, no? So we know that there is the I, internal base, and then there is the object of the eye, no? So the visible object, that's also a rupa. And dependent of these two, then any kind of, or these 10 defilements, fetters, which are called samyojana fetters here, can arise. So we know the I and the object as well as the fetter that can arise or that arise together because depending on these two. Now these 10 samyojana, they are to be eradicated in the different stages of enlightenment. So when a person reached the first stage of enlightenment as a sotapanna, then wrong view, jealousy, stinginess, attachment to wrong practice, and doubt will be totally eradicated. It will be gone once and for all. So in the first stage of enlightenment, all this samyojana, I mean these 5, they will be eradicated. And in the second stage of enlightenment, sense desire and hatred will be greatly reduced. So it is called the gross sense desire and gross aversion. They will be eradicated. And in the third stage of enlightenment, even the subtle sense desire and the subtle aversion will also be totally eradicated. Then in the fourth stage of enlightenment, which is the arahaship, that's the highest stage of enlightenment, then the remaining craving for better existence, conceit, and delusion will also be totally eradicated. So when the person attained the highest stage of enlightenment, there will be no more defilements, no more samyojana left in the person. Okay, so this is what is meant by fetter here. So meditators know the internal and the external base as well as the fetter that arise dependent on both. So meditators observed and know, for example, the I. They understand that I is rupa and the visible object is also rupa. So they understand the individual characteristic, the function, the manifestation. Rupa is not mine. It's not I, me, mine also, and it is different from mind. Rupa is rupa, it is not chitta, right? So when any fetters arise in the mind of the meditators, they also know and understand that, for example, sense desire or other fetters arise because of the contact of the sense space and the object. So if the meditator contemplates in this way, he is contemplating on the Dhamma, in this way, internal, external basis, as well as the fetters. So the meditators also will understand the reason why this fetter arise. He also knows the reason why the arising of the non-arising fetters comes to be, and he also knows the reason why the abandoning of the arisen fetter comes to be. And he also knows the reason why non-arisen in the future of the abandoned fetter comes to be. That means meditators understand that the reason fetter arises is because of unwise attention. Previously, in the few sessions ago, we talked about yoniso manasikara, the wise attention. So because of unwise attention, then fetters arise. And the abandoning of them are because of wise attention, because of yoniso manasikara. So, and the non-arising in the future is actually the attainment of path consciousness, because once the person reached the stage of that of attainment of path consciousness, the different stages of enlightenment, then once eradicated, all those factors will never come back again. So those are the non-arising in the future of the abandoned factors. So this is what is meant in this paragraph here. So those factors will never arise again. They know this also when they have attained that stage of enlightenment, not before that, right? Okay, so in the same way that is for the eyes, then the same applies to the other bases. So the sutta continues with Sotenja pajanati, sadeja pajanati. He knows the ear, knows sound, and also knows the factors that arises dependent on both, and also knows the reason why the arising of the non-arisen factor comes to be, talking about ear and sound no, here, and also the abandoning of it and the non-arising in the future. So the sutta then continues with another pair, which is nose and smell, and then tongue and taste in the same way, body and tangible object in the same way, and at last, mind and dhammas, here again meaning the all the other objects that we have just explained, no? All the other objects that the mind can take. So in this way, meditators also observed the other rupas that arise together. For example, if he or she is looking at the eye, let's say, then not only the eye is there, no, just like in the other sections, when we observe rupa, we understand that rupa do not arise alone. Now, say eye sensitivity, it does not arise alone. It arises with the 4 primary elements and other material properties as well. So in this way, the meditator also expand the contemplation to other rupas. And when the meditators observe the factors that arise due to the two, they are observing the mind. They are mental factors, no? So they also understand that this cetasika does not arise alone. There are other mental factors as well as consciousness itself that they arise together also. So meditators also proceed to observe the other mental factors and consciousness also. So in this way, they contemplate on both nama and rupa, which is object of vipassana, starting with the 6 internal external bases and the factors that arise because of them. And so they come to understand that there are only mind and matter arising and passing, and there is no being, no individual, and no self. So in this way, the sutta continues like the other sections. The meditators contemplate internally that there are only internal bases, external bases, and then there are factors that arise due to the contact of the two. They understand that there is no individual there, only cause and effect working, mind and matter working. So in the same way, they also infer that the same happens for other people also, no other beings. So there is no individual, no man, no woman, only these elements, these bases working. Then he continues to contemplate on the origination factors of mind and matter, just like all the other sections, and also the dissolution factors, and both the origination and dissolution factors of all the dhammas here, mind and matter, the 6 internal and external bases. In this way, they proceed to contemplate the anicca, dukkha, and anatta characteristics also of mind and matter, and they will be able to see the arising and fading away of them, whatever they are experiencing. Then they will reach the higher and higher stages of vipassana wisdom until the level of arahatship, where there will be no more wrong view and craving or clinging to the 5 aggregates of, to the 5 aggregates or to the bases, here the 12 bases. So this is how a meditator contemplates the Dhamma in the Dhammas on the 6 internal and external sense bases. Now, as you may have realized already, when we contemplate the experience that is arising at this present moment, we can see them in many ways. Sometimes we may take them as mental feelings, sometimes as consciousness, sometimes as the 5 aggregates, sometimes internal, external bases, hindrances. There are so many categories that are introduced in this sutta. But when we actually practice, we do not need to choose how to categorize the experience, But because we have read in this sutta, we studied in this sutta, then the mind already have information about these different categories, what they belong to. And so it is not very important to like when you observe, you don't have to think, oh, this is what kind of contemplation, or this is what is not necessary. As long as we are observing, we are knowing the ultimate reality, we are knowing the mind and matter, their characteristic, and we are growing in wisdom. No? So in this way, it is more important to know what is obvious at the moment. We don't have to set up like, oh, I'm practicing Vedana today, so I'm only looking at Vedana. So it's not necessary. Whatever is obvious at the moment, we just observe it. Say feeling is obvious, so feeling, we observe feeling. If hindrances are more obvious, then we observe the hindrances. Whatever comes, we just have to observe, and it doesn't matter the category at all. Okay, so while we practice, we can be switching between Kaya-nupassana, Vedana-nupassana, Chitta-nupassana, Dhamma-nupassana. And when we are practicing, it does not matter what we call them. So we just observe whatever is happening in the present moment. Okay, so we have come to the end of the section of internal and external basis also, because the practice basically go in the same way. So we just have to understand what is meant by internal and external basis. Up till here, any question? Oh, good. Quite clear now. It's not difficult to understand, yeah? Okay, so in this case, we will stop here, and next week we will continue with the 7 factors of enlightenment, which are very interesting also. Those are the factors that support gaining of wisdom for enlightenment. So next week we will look at that. Yes, Sanda?
Yeah, I have a quick question about the doubt. It's only about doubt in Buddha, in the teaching and in practice, isn't it?
Yes. That kind of doubt is about concerning, as you said, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. And also, it can be doubt about the practice. Let's say we're doubting that whether we can do this, whether I'm good enough, or like is this practice going to the right way, or how about this teacher is saying what is correct or not, and all kinds of this kind of doubt. Not doubting about like daily matter, no, like some not those kind of doubts, skeptical doubt.
But what is the doubt in the Sangha?
Doubting in the Sangha, it can be many things. It can be, say, for example, are these people really practicing in accordance with the Dhamma? Or it can also be the whether it is still possible in the Sangha, whether there are still people that really attained any kind of enlightenment or any kind of jhana or anything. No, that can also be.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Okay. Anyone else? All good? Yeah. Okay. We're actually coming to the end of the sutta. Now, this is the final part of the sutta, the contemplation of the Dhamma. So we still have the factors of enlightenment and the 4 noble truths. And after these 2, we will complete the whole Mahasatipatthana Sutta. And the rest is for us to practice, right? So because the Mahasatipatthana Sutta is explained for the practice of vipassana, and that is the most important part, no, actually, because even if we know it, we won't get anywhere. This is only the map. Sitting at home and looking at the map will not bring us to the final destination, right? So now knowing the sutta, we should try to practice it in our daily life, and that is what will bring us real benefit. So I hope all of us, with this knowledge, I hope this will be helpful for our practice. And may we all attain enlightenment and arrive to the final goal as soon as possible. Okay, so we will close here today. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I'll see you again next week. And so let's dedicate our effort for the attainment of enlightenment and also share merits with all beings. So let's recite together. Itam no punyam nibbānassa paccaya hotu. Itam no punyam nibbānassa paccaya hotu. Itam no punyam nibbānassa paccaya hotu. Itam no punyam sabbasatanam bhajima. Itam no punyam sabbasatanam bhajima. Itam no punyam sabbasatanam bhajima. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, thank you everyone. Very happy to see you all. Have a very good week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you, Heidi.
You're welcome.
Thank you and good
much.
night.
Good night. See you.
Thank you. Beautiful explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.